I think we're ready. I am so grateful to the Metropolitan Silver Band for being with us this morning in worship. And what I do know is that there's lots of people watching online. So I want you to feel like this place is full, not only of the cloud of witnesses, but all the people who have enjoyed and will watch the concert in a couple of days as well. So I welcome you as a sister church to Islington, not only because we have shared history of sharing a circuit rider over 200 years ago, spreading good news and care to the city, but also the love of music that joins us with a legacy of musical leaders and gifts. And I know amongst you are many music teachers, so in your life away from here, also you're doing that work in the world. Every Tuesday night, you're meeting to prepare and to be a band and to model for us what it means to work together and make music together. And in a world where disharmony can be found, the invitation to listen to your music with harmony is a gift that we're looking forward to hearing. So I welcome all of you. There will be a free will offering later, and Jason will offer thanks to the band. But it's my privilege to turn it over to Fran with gratitude for all the preparation and all the ways that you are serving in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned, we are the Metropolitan Silver Band from Metropolitan United Church in downtown Toronto, where we have been for 91 years. We celebrated our 90th anniversary last year, so we're in the 91s, and you're in the 200s, so we have a little ways to go. Some of us probably won't make it to 200, but we might. Today we're going to start our program with a piece of music that was written for the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra in 1924, which is now 100 years ago, that was written for their 40th anniversary. So you are older than the Vienna Philharmonic. And it was written by the amazing composer, Richard Strauss, not the Strauss with the waltzes, the other Strauss, the one with the operas. And it is a beautiful piece of music that is still used regularly at the Vienna Philharmonic as sort of an annual gala kind of thing. So we're sharing it with you as your gala for your 206th. This is the Vienna Philharmonic Fanfare. Isn't that fun music? It's just, makes you feel very ready, which is our goal. So the program we've brought along today, we're going to be here for about an hour or so, and we've brought along a program of music from a variety of different places. We started in Islington and moved quickly to Germany, had a little time with the Vienna Philharmonic, and we decided we were going to go from there over to Ireland. Any Irish folks in the neighborhood? Okay, couple. And the thing about being Irish is if there's any Irish blood in you at all, you're Irish, right? My great-great-grandmother was Irish. On my mother's side, my dad's side was British. And if anybody asks me what my heritage is, I say Irish and English. My dad's parents came over from England, but Irish and English, not English and Irish. I don't know how that works. Anyway, we're going to play a piece of music written by Dorothy Gates. Dorothy Gates is a Salvation Army composer for many, many years. Beautiful writing. And she wrote a little suite about where she grew up in near Dublin, or I think in Dublin. And it's a place called Ravenshill, an area. And it's right by the Lagan, which is one of the rivers that runs through. And so she took 3 folk tunes and turned it into a little suite. Now today we're only going to do 2 of those folk tunes. It's always a good idea if I get the right ones. The first one we're going to play today is called My Lagan Love, which is one of those, it's one of those Irish folk tunes that are kind of all about, loss and love and why it's so important and that kind of thing. And then the second one is, The Flower of Sweet Strabane. Now, there was a Irish fellow that collected all of these, and he put them together, and this is in the 1920s and 30s. He collected these folk tunes from this area and published them in the newspaper. Now, I guess he didn't put the music with it, I'm not sure. But he collected all of these pieces, and they became quite important and quite famous. And they're 2 of the most fun little Irish tunes. So we're going to do 2 of them for you, My Lagan Love and The Sweet Flower, because of Strabane. Thank you. For those of you who felt the need to river dance, there is plenty of dancing room, probably safer on the sides, but there's always room here for dancing at Islington United. We're going to now move a little bit further around in the British Isles, and we're going to play a piece of music that is from a suite written by Philip Sparke. Philip Sparke is one of the brass band composers. The British-style brass band is very popular in Europe, and particularly in Britain, hence the name British-style brass band. And it comes actually from the mining and mill towns where they put together these bands as a way to keep the gentlemen in those days from spending as much time in the pub after they've just been doing the hard labor. So it was a way for them to blow off a little steam in another way. And one of the things about the brass band is that we all play similar types of instruments. I'll tell you more about that later on. But Philip Sparke is one of the people who writes in this style, and he did a thing called the suite that is the Hymn of the Highlands. It is a 7-movement suite. Good news, we're not doing all 7. It's lovely, and it's all original music that sounds like folk tunes. And what he did is the only one that's sort of a known one is the Highland Cathedral, which he does in the last movement. But he wrote them about the different areas. And the one we're going to feature today is called Flowerdale, which is an area near, I think it's called Glenelg, which is down over there. Down and to the left, on the west coast, right on the coast. And there's this beautiful waterfall at Flowerdale Glen. And so he wrote this for the Yorkshire Building Brass Band. And it features the soprano cornet. In our case, our soprano cornet player is Sarah Hemian. And soprano cornet is the one that you get to hear that does all the light high stuff. It's a beautiful instrument. And this is a lovely little piece of music written specifically for that instrument. It's called Flowerdale. And for those of you with perfect pitch, that last note is a high E flat, which is way out of anybody else's range. Thank you, Sarah. Isn't that a beautiful piece of music? Flowerdale. If you haven't heard the whole suite, I recommend you get the recording of the Yorkshire Building Brass Band doing it. It is just amazing. It's a really great recording. And do listen to all 7 movements. It takes a while. It's half a concert right there. But it is just a beautiful piece of music. And Philip Spark really understands how to write, not only for brass band, but certainly for soprano. Sarah's all warmed up now, right? Yeah. Well, we're going to go from the British Isles to where the British Isles goes for holiday. In the wintertime, pretty much everybody in Britain says, oh, I'd really like to go to Spain, because it's quite a bit warmer, a little south, but it's the place to go. And we've got a piece of music that has been part of our repertoire for probably 50 years, I'm not sure, at least. It's a piece of music that everybody will recognize, I'm sure. It's a piece of music that everybody's heard of. But you won't have heard this arrangement before unless you have been to Metropolitan or watched our 90th anniversary concert online or in person, or are at a concert where we perform. Because it was written for us, probably, I'm guessing somewhere in the late 50s to early 60s, by one of the conductors. Brass band, when the band first got together, 1934, they had come from the Salvation Army tradition, and they came to Metropolitan. Basically, they wandered around the city. They left. There was a bit of a schism. They had a little problem. They left the Salvation Army church, and that meant they left their instruments and everything, because that belonged to the church. They mortgaged their houses, bought instruments and uniforms for themselves, and they were in the Toronto area for a little bit. And in the summer of 1934, we used to have outdoor services all summer on the front lawn at Metropolitan. If you've ever been to Metropolitan, we've got that beautiful park. And they came along and they said that they just had like congregational singing, because you can't bring Canada's largest pipe organ outdoors. Just can't be done. So they just had congregational singing, and they came along and they said, oh, would you like a band? And the folks at the Met, knowing a good thing when they saw it, said, why, certainly, that would be great. And it was in good Methodist tradition to have that kind of music. So they came, they played, and in the fall, in good United Church tradition, they said, would you like to come inside? It's getting cold. And we've stayed ever since. We're musicians. We know a good thing when we see it. But the original music that they played were hymn tunes and or orchestral transcriptions. That's what you got a lot of, because it's what was written for the genre. Al Wood, who was a professional musician in the Toronto area, decided it was time to update the repertoire a bit. So he wrote arrangements of pop tunes and popular music and things that people would recognize. And hence, we are going to Spain, because one of the things he loved was listening to an accordion player play nothing other than the Lady of Spain. So we are going to do it. We left our accordions at home, thankfully. And we are going to play Lady of Spain as arranged for the Metropolitan Silver Band by Al Wood. Isn't that a fun piece of music? Written specifically for this ensemble by one of our previous conductors. I think he had a bit of a sense of a humor too, because he went through about 85 keys, I think, at least. He changes key like, oh, let's just go up a tone, let's move over. It's one of those things, so it just keeps the musicians on their toes as well. It's kind of fun. The next thing we're going to do is, we're just going to go right across the ocean, because what the heck. We're just going to fly across the ocean, and we're going to come to North America. And let's see, was anybody here around in the 1970s? There's a couple of people like, no. Those of us who were around in the 1970s, yes, we were around. So in the 1960s and 70s, the styles of music changed quite a bit. And as we get older, we stay young at heart, and the things that we grew up with, we really love. So the piece of music we're going to play next is one of those pieces. It's iconic from the 1970s. And it's one of those things, if anybody is a guitar player out there, or was a guitar player in the 1970s, which probably all of us were, there are two songs that you learned. The first one you learned was Smoke on the Water, right? Dun, 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 dun. It's like 3 chords. It's real easy. It's great. I can play that. And then the next thing when you wanted to get really good about this stuff is you played this next piece. Not in my repertoire. Never has been, never will be. It's the iconic writing of Led Zeppelin. Who can tell me what the tune is? That's it. You got it. You say Led Zeppelin, and everybody in this age grouping says, oh, I think that's Led Zeppelin. Oh, Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven. Robert Plant and Jimmy Page wrote it together. Apparently the words came together very quickly. There is somebody that they claim it was about, or people later have. But basically, there's a lady who knows that all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. The notion that, you can try to get there through that, but it's not going to get you there. And all the gold in the world isn't going to get you there. But it is iconic guitar writing. There is a 10-minute guitar solo, which our euphonium players are going to play verbatim, all 10 minutes of it. And Fred's nodding, yeah, sure. No, the guitar solo got transferred over to the euphonium. It's very cool how he does that. And this arrangement is really fun. It's a really fun thing to play. And I know that those of you who know that music from that time period are going to love it, and the people who are a little bit younger and don't know it are going to love it. And those that are a bit older definitely have heard it a bunch of times. So this is Led Zeppelin, done by the Metropolitan Silver Band, on Stairway to Heaven. iconic music of 1971, written in 1971, released, I think it was in 71. And, you know, it doesn't get better than Led Zeppelin, does it? It's always fun. And who knew that a brass band could play rock and roll? And speaking of the brass band, just so that you, for those of you who aren't familiar with the genre, we are, like I said, it's something that comes from Britain. And one of the things that's great is they all have valves, well, except for the trombones. Trombone players, I don't know. But everything in a brass band is played in treble clef, with the exception of Bob playing the bass trombone, because it's too low to write in treble clef. But everything else is written in treble clef, which is very unusual if you're a tuba player. And it's written so that you can use the same fingering. So you can learn on cornet and go play euphonium, or you can learn on euphonium and go play tuba. It's not that easy to do that, but that's the theory. And they were fairly inexpensive to build. But we have everything from the little tiny soprano cornet. Sarah, can you hold that up? Can you hold yours up at the same time? B-flat cornet, that's the standard one. It's like a trumpet. The soprano is a little bit smaller and a little bit higher and much, much more tasky to play. And we have most of the music, if you were in an orchestra, the violin part sort of stuff would be done by the cornets. If you were in a wind band, like a marching band or something like that, it would be clarinets and flutes, but the cornets do all that work. That's why their fingers go so fast that you see the smoke coming off of them. Sometimes. And then we have the next biggest instrument, sort of sound-wise, but it's exactly the same pitch and size as a cornet, it's just fatter around, is the flugelhorn. And then we move down to the tenor horns, and tenor horns are the unique beast that Jason plays. And a tenor horn is an instrument that is, it looks like a little tiny tuba, but it's not. It's like, kind of like, ooh, I shouldn't say this because Rita's a French horn player. It's sort of like a French horn in the color, in the spot it sits in the orchestra, kind of your violas. No, it doesn't sound, well, it does. When you play it, it sounds like a French horn, Rita. It's such a beautiful sound. It kind of sits in that, you know, viola kind of range, right? And then we have euphoniums, which are smaller baby tubas kind of things. If you put them in the wash and shrunk them a bit. And then we have slightly smaller than that, but the same pitch is a baritone, but they're just a little bit smaller, so you get different colors of sounds. And then we have two kinds of tubas, E-flat and B-flat. The E-flat's a bit smaller and higher. The B-flat is Tim back there. And then, of course, we have full percussion. So we have timpani and drum set and snare drums and bass drums, and you'll hear some wicked tambourine going on back there. You heard some castanets. They just hit everything they can find back there, right? What did I miss? Oh. One doesn't need to introduce the trombones. They introduce themselves. We have one of the best trombone sections in the planet, probably, certainly in Canada. That's to make up for missing them. The first two gentlemen, Max and Howard, play tenor trombones. They are written in treble clef, and Bob is playing the bass trombone, which is a little bit bigger and lower. So he's kind of quasi-tuba, quasi-trombone. And those have slides, and I don't know how they work. I have no idea. Not true, but it's a really cool instrument. And it's the only really cylindrical instrument in the band. I missed by one more. The next piece of music, anybody have any questions about those? Feel free to ask if you have any questions about how the brass band works. If you're thinking about it, it's good to ask. We're fine with that. We're quite friendly. What do I play? I play the baton. I'm a cornet player, but I also play some tuba and some tenor horn and whatever needs, but not in this group. I used to play flugel and cornet with this group for many years before I became the conductor. But most of the time I do this. If you think of any questions, feel free to ask them after this next piece. Next piece we're going to do is a piece of sort of popular music. Anybody ever heard of the Boston Pops? Their arranger-composer for many years was Leroy Anderson. And Anderson was a fascinating guy. Like, he wrote incredible music. Most people think of, pizzicato strings and that kind of stuff. You might think of Bugler's Holiday, Trumpeter's Lullaby, those of us who are trumpet players. You might think of Sleigh Ride, that kind of stuff. But he wrote a lot for that group, and he wrote a lot of different music. But during the war, he was a code breaker. He spoke something like 7 different languages. His background, his family background was one of the Nordic countries. And so he spoke all of those various languages, had studied languages in university, went into the army, and did incredible things with the code breaking stuff. I'm not exactly sure of all the details because a lot of that isn't told. And then he went back, during that he was still composing music, then he went back to doing music full time, and then during the Korean War they pulled him back into service. So he was a fascinating guy. You should read up about him, he's kind of cool. And he wrote this piece of music specifically for a more fun style. He wrote it as an original piece. It's not an arrangement of anything, and he wanted to have something that had a little bit of a Latin feel to it, and he picked up, kind of a couple of themes and put it together, and he turned it into a piece of music that I'm sure many of you will recognize. It was a big hit at one point. It's called Serenata.
That was about as iconic a Leroy Anderson ending to a piece as I have ever heard. I expected to hear a trumpet player start winning near the end. I would like for everyone to know that I was not born in the 70s. I was not alive in the 70s, but I did know. I do know Stairway to Heaven, and I've heard of Led Zeppelin. I was going to request, Fran, for the next concert, if we could have some New Kids on the Block, maybe some Spice Girls, maybe. No. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sarah's in for it.
Did they sing anything I know?
They probably did. Also, I perhaps just one complaint around the demonstration is I feel like the timpani player should have to lift his instrument up also so we can see that. Doesn't really feel fair.
No. It's never a good idea to lift a timp over your head.
We have given our gratitude over and over, and I would just say one more time thanks for joining us on our anniversary Sunday. This is a whole year now of celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Union of the United Church of Canada, and this is just one of many events we'll have here at Islington United this year, and we're grateful that you've been here for this event, and we welcome family and friends of those who are here who are connected to the band in some way. We wanted to give you an opportunity. We, of course, in showing gratitude to the band, are contributing to their work by offering them a financial gift. And so if you'd like to contribute to that, we do have an opportunity during this next piece. We are going to pass the plate, but you can also, if you're online, you can make a contribution by e-transferring, give at islingtonunited.org. There are other ways you can find to give online, or you can visit the church office at some point if you'd like. If you didn't come prepared, don't worry. We will still pass the plates just because it's a thing we love to do here. And in the meantime, many thanks to Fran and the band, and especially the tenor horn section. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Those tenor horns, they love to be recognized. Trombones are just so subtle, they just hang out in the back. They make sure you know who they are. We're going to leave you with one last piece of music, as Jason said. This piece of music is written by Sam Kramer, arranged by Sam Kramer. He's currently one of the fellows that's sort of in charge of music stuff in Australia. And he's a drummer. And he took an old standard hymn that I think really is a perfect one for an anniversary. Because, and especially as you move into a new year and you're ready to start up new things, I think the messaging is really good. And it's a hymn tune called Hold the Fort. And many of you will recognize it. His version of it is Hold That Fort, and you will know quickly why he added it as Hold That Fort and then put an exclamation mark at the end of it. So we want to thank you so much for coming today. If you're looking for us online, you can find us at Metropolitan Silver Band. You can just look us up. We have metband.ca. Is that our website? I think. Metband.ca. And you can find us on Facebook as well. If you're a Facebook kind of person, you can keep track of us and come to all of our concerts. Our next one is in Thorn. We have anniversary service at Met, and then we have Thornhill United on the 23rd of November. If you want a little trek to Thornhill, they would love to see you there. And then we do big Christmas stuff down at the Met as well on Advent 2, where Mark will probably be singing with us. So you can follow us there, or just check in with us every now and then. We'd love to see you again, and we hope for another 206 years at least for you. And we will see you the next time. This is Hold That Fort, arranged by Sam Kramer. I could leave you with one little gospel gem. Would you like one little gospel gem to go home? Okay, how about something that sounds sort of like Chariots Are A-Comin' and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. William Gordon's arrangement called Chariots.
One, two,